Hi guys, very good evening all of you. How are you? I hope all of you are doing good. So welcome to day 3 of CA Intermediate and IPCC auditing crash course. So this is ratio analysis morning class. Shall we open a new page? Yes sir. So this is CA Inter and IPCC auditing day 3 crash course. So in day 1, if you remember, we have completed some parts of chapter 1. Okay, so day 1 we have completed some parts of chapter 1. Still there are so many things to be done in chapter 1. Day 2, if you remember, we have seen CARO 2016 completely. CARO 2020 is not yet applicable. CARO 2020 is not yet applicable. For both CA Intermediate and IPCC, CARO 2016 is only applicable. So day 2 we have completed CARO 100%, completed thoroughly. Okay, so today is day 3. Let us go back to chapter 1 again and we'll do chapter 1 and 2. We'll do chapter 1. If time permits, if you are able to complete chapter 1 in less time, if time permits, then we will see audit planning, audit strategy, audit programming, understanding the knowledge of the client's business to plan, risk assessments, all these things we will see. If time permits, we will see all these things. Okay, now you tell me, are you ready to start the class? If you are ready, just say ready in the chat box. If you are ready, just say ready in the chat box. I'll have just a sip of water and I have made a beautiful material available for you. Today we will see chapter 1. Arun, good evening. Akshita, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so all of you open your this material I have sent to you, chapter 1, first page. Okay, and you also have received MCQ Bank, approx 1200 MCQs are there. Have you received MCQ Bank? 1200 MCQs are there. So from today onwards, what you need to do is, daily, every day, daily 50 MCQs you need to read. 50 MCQs. So 1200 by 50. Okay, it must be 24. Yes, that means in 24 days you can complete this MCQ book. In 24 days you can complete this MCQ book. So in this MCQ book, randomly any 50 MCQs you can do, or you can do it in sequential order also, or you can do it topic wise also, but don't miss it. Any day, any given day, whatever your study plan is. Pavan sir, today I am doing advanced accounting. Pavan sir, today I am doing costing. Pavan sir, whatever it is, this 50 MCQs you need to do from auditing. And if time permits, do some 20-30 MCQs from strategic management also, because strategic management, if you see our material, we have around 700 MCQs, 600-700 MCQs. So these MCQs, you cannot allocate a separate day for it. What you need to do is every day some 50 MCQs of audit, some 1-2 case studies of audit, or 20-25 MCQs of law, then 20-25 MCQs of strategic management. Like that, if you do, it will save your time, and systematically over a period, comfortably you can complete this. Okay, so shall we go to our material? So this is our main material. Okay, now. So these are the users of financial statements. Financial statements includes balance sheet, P&L, this kind of stuff we have seen. Users of financial statements we have seen from exam point of view, not a very important thing also. And a quick revision, super quick revision of what we have done on day 1. Auditing definition we have seen. Meaning and definitions we have seen. Just all of you read this A to F, read these points A to F. The person conducting task should take care of, that means the auditor should take care to ensure that the financial statements financial statements would not mislead anybody. Financial statements would not mislead anybody. Pawan sir, to achieve that, what am I supposed to do? You need to do A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, just read that 6 points once. Just read that 6 points once. Read that 6 points. The accounts have been drawn up with reference to entries in the books of account. That means there are no fake, items in financial statements. The entries in the books of account are adequately supported by sufficient appropriate audit evidence. In SCA 500 and in SCA 5 series, all the 5 series, if you look at 500, 501, 510, 520, 530, all these things, majority of the 5 series things are about audit evidence. Primarily 500 and 501. And there are so many other things also. Management representation letters as an audit evidence. External confirmations as an audit evidence. Like that, there are so many things. Okay, so B point is about audit evidence. What kind of audit evidence? Chumma, not some audit evidence. Not simply some audit evidence. What audit evidence? Audit evidence which is sufficient and appropriate. Audit evidence which is sufficient and appropriate. Then C. None of the entries in the books of account have been omitted. That means you are not omitting any entry. And nothing which is not in the books of account has found place in the statements. That means wrong omission is not there, wrong inclusion is not there. That means if 100 entries happened, 100 transactions happened during the year. If 100 transactions happened during the year, you cannot enter 99, one omission, no, not allowed. You cannot enter 101, one fake entry, not allowed. So whatever the transactions happened, they only should be there. That is what we call true. Full inclusion, no omission, true. Then D, the information conveyed by statements is clear and unambiguous. This is about presentation. We speak about preparation and presentation of financial statements. We speak about preparation and presentation. While preparing financial statements, you need to look at law. While preparing financial statements, you need to look at law, accounting standards, materiality. While thinking about presentation, the disclosure requirements, the language, the readability and qualitative characteristics are to be considered. Qualitative characteristics are to be considered. Then E, financial statements amounts are properly classified. Classification like long term, short term, current, non-current, that kind of things. Described and disclosed in conformity with accounting standards. They're basically speaking about accounting standards. F, the statements of accounts present a true and fair picture of the operational results and assets and liabilities. Operational results means P&L. Assets and liabilities means balance sheet. So these are basic things. Then objective of audit. Do you remember we have discussed about the responsibilities of management and responsibilities of auditor. Now you tell me, what are the responsibilities of auditor? Simple. The primary responsibility is reporting. The primary responsibility is reporting. So the auditor has to report on the financial statements. What he has to report? Whether the financial statements are showing true and fair view, whether there are any material misstatements in the financial statements. That you need to tell. That is the objective. So look here, as per SCA 200, overall objectives of the independent auditor in conducting audit of financial statements. The overall objective of auditor are, overall objectives are A, to obtain reasonable assurance. To obtain reasonable assurance. Do you remember there are different levels of assurances? What are the levels of assurances? No assurance. No assurance. Okay, then limited assurance. Limited assurance. Then reasonable assurance. Then absolute assurance. No assurance, limited assurance, reasonable assurance, absolute assurance. No assurance means I am giving you 0%, guarantee. It's not a guarantee. It's a kind of, the confidence level, 0% confidence level. When I give no assurance, for example, as a chartered accountant, Pawan Kumar is hired by X Limited. X Limited called and said, Pawan sir, you are chartered accountant now. Pawan sir, can you make this statement for us? Can you prepare this statement for us? So I have prepared a statement for them. So I am working like an accountant, not like an auditor. Compilation of financial statements or physical verification of inventory. This kind of assignments you have given, I will not give any assurance to you then. I will verify, give you a report. That is not assurance. There will be no assurance there. So this is 0%. Limited assurance is also known as negative low degree assurance. Negative or low degree assurance. This will be given in review of interim financial statements. That means quarterly P&L balance sheet, half yearly P&L balance sheet. You will not conduct audit. Even big companies also, like Reliance Industries, Infosys kind of companies also. For stock market, to comply with stock market rules, stock exchange regulations, they prepare quarterly financial statements. Every quarter they prepare financial statements. When they give financial statements, if you look at interim financial statements, what they tell you know, unaudited financial statements of Reliance Industries Limited, profit and loss account for the quarter ending so and so, balance sheet as on so and so date. So those interim financial statements will be there. No, the auditors, statutory auditors will not conduct audit, they will conduct review. This is called limited review. This is called limited review. Then comes reasonable assurance, which is a positive high level assurance. Positive high level assurance. So in limited assurance, say for example 50 to 60% confidence level is there. In positive assurance, 90 to 95% confidence level will be there. This will be given in annual statutory audits. In annual statutory audits, we give a confidence level of 90 to 95, which is maximum. This is called reasonable assurance. This is called reasonable assurance. Now, absolute assurance means 100% confidence level, which never will be given. Never. Auditor will never give absolute assurance. He cannot. Now, you tell me why auditor cannot give absolute assurance. You tell me why auditor cannot give absolute assurance. Because, Pawan sir, there are inherent limitations. So write down here, absolute assurance in audits cannot be given due to inherent limitations of audit. Due to inherent limitations. Due to inherent limitations of audit. There are inherent limitations. So I cannot give you absolute assurance. Now student will ask, Pawan sir, everything is good, but you used positive, negative words here. What is this positive assurance and negative assurance? What is this positive assurance and negative assurance? In positive assurance, what I'll tell you, the financial statements are showing true and fair view. This is positive assurance. That means Rama is a good boy. Ravi is a good boy. Ravi is a good boy. This is positive assurance. What is negative assurance? Negative assurance is nothing came to our notice to conclude that the financial statements are not showing true and fair view. Nothing came to our notice to conclude that financial statements are not showing true and fair view. So here I am saying, I never saw Ravi boozing. I never saw Ravi smoking. I never saw Ravi doing something wrong. I never saw Ravi doing something, not accepted by the society. That doesn't mean I am giving any certificate to Ravi, no. So Ravi is a good boy. Nothing came to my notice to say Ravi is a bad boy. Nothing came to my notice to say that Ravi is a bad boy. So this is the difference. This we follow in audits. In review of interim financial statements, we do this. Do you know what is the difference between audit and review? We follow the same procedures, we do the same planning, but the difference between audit and review is, all the things we do in audit, we do in review also. All the things we do in audit, we do in review also. Only one thing will not do. That is, we do not apply tests of controls. Tests of controls will be applied in audit, but tests of controls will not be applied in review. So in review, what we do, one, inquiring management, two, analytical procedures. These two will apply more. In review, we apply inquiring management and analytical procedures more. In audit, we do thorough checking of 0 to 100. Okay, now you understand, do you understand the 4 levels of assurance? Do you understand the 4 levels of assurance? This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Absolute assurance cannot be given in audits because of inherent limitations. Now you tell me, what are the inherent limitations? Hello, can you tell me what are the inherent limitations? Okay, so inherent limitations. This one, inherent limitations. Come to page number 5, you can see inherent limitations. Come to page number 5, we can see inherent limitations. Okay, so from thousands of pages, we have cut short it into 280 pages. In this 280 pages also, 200 pages or less than 200 pages only study material. All remaining will be previously asked questions, model papers we give and all. No. So basically, if you read 200 pages, it is done. You are done with this auditing subject. So look here. As per SCA 200, what is 200? Overall objective of independent auditor and conduct of audit in accordance with standards on auditing. This is the name of standard. How big the name is. The auditor is not expected to and cannot reduce the audit risk to 0 and cannot obtain absolute assurance. Write down in your notes. According to SCA 200, write down in your notes. According to SCA 200, comma, the auditor is not expected to. And cannot. The auditor is not expected to and cannot. He need not and he cannot reduce audit risk to 0. Cannot reduce audit risk to 0. He need not reduce audit risk to 0 and he cannot reduce audit risk to 0. And cannot therefore obtain obtain absolute assurance. Cannot obtain absolute assurance. That the financial statements are free from MMS. What is MMS? You remember, material misstatements. Financial statements are free from material misstatements, and financial statements are, we can include it in one point only. Financial statements are free from material misstatements due to fraud or error. That the financial statements are free from material misstatements due to fraud or error. Okay, now the question is, what is audit risk? Okay, can anyone tell me in the comment section? Can anyone tell me in the chat box what is audit risk? Next question comes, what is audit risk? What is audit risk? Okay, tell me what is audit risk? Audit risk is the risk or a situation. Audit risk is the risk or situation that the auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion. Auditor expresses an inappropriate opinion where the financial statements are materially misstated. Where the financial statements are materially misstated. Here, if you observe, there are 2 points. Step 1, the financial statements are materially misstated. Step 2, the auditor is giving inappropriate opinion. So this is step 1. This is step 2. Step 1, the financial statements are materially misstated. That means they are not showing true and fair value. But auditor has given inappropriate opinion. So that means what, this is technically the definition. In layman's language, financial statements are not showing true and fair view. In layman's language, financial statements are not showing true and fair view. But auditor expressed an opinion. Expressed an opinion that the financial statements are showing true and fair view. Financial statements are showing true and fair view. Can there be a big crime? Financial statements are not showing true and fair view. They are materially misstated. But being the auditor, what you are doing? You said financial statements are showing true and fair view. Fraud. So no one will agree auditor is innocent. If auditor claims innocent, sorry, mistakes are. No. How can it be? The financial statements are showing true and fair view. You gave inappropriate opinion. Now you tell me how many components of audit risk are there? Components of audit risk. The whole thing we are discussing is SCA 200. How many components of audit risk are there? Tell me. Audit risk has 3 components. Or you can write it like this: risk of material misstatement and detection risk. From risk of material misstatement, again 2 components will be there: inherent risk, control risk. And now there are 3 components: inherent risk, control risk, detection risk. Okay, that means what? Inherent risk means frauds and errors will happen. Come whatever may, whether you put internal control or no internal control, integrity level of management is good or bad, management, they are not properly aware of procedures, or intentionally they are doing some frauds. So some reason or other, frauds and errors will happen. Financial statements are susceptible to the risk of material misstatement due to fraud and error, irrespective of whether controls are there or no. This is what inherent risk is. Control risk means internal control system either is not present, absent, that means no internal controls, or weak controls. So because of this, control risk says frauds and errors are not detected or prevented. Frauds and errors are not identified, prevented, detected by management. Prevented, detected by internal control system. That means by management. Now, what is the third one? What is the third one? Third one is detection risk. In detection risk, auditor is unable to detect the misstatement, the material misstatement. Now look at 1 plus add 2 plus 3. This is audit risk. 1 plus 2 plus 3 are cumulative effect of all the points. If you see, frauds and errors happened, internal control has not prevented, auditor has not detected. Then what happens when you look at 1 plus 2 plus 3? When you look at 1 plus 2 plus 3, then what happens? Financial statements are not showing true and fair view, but auditor said that the financial statements are showing true and fair view. Why? Because he is unable to detect. This is audit risk. What is audit risk? Audit risk starts with 1, inherent risk. 2, it goes to control risk. 3, it comes to auditor's headache. You understand? Do you understand this? And more detailed discussion about audit risk we'll do in next chapter. Audit risk 3rd and 4th chapters we'll discuss more. Okay. So shall we go further? Now, this is because there are inherent limitations. Why you cannot give absolute assurance? Why you cannot get absolute assurance? As a chartered accountant, as the auditor of the company, I cannot get absolute assurance from the books. And I cannot give absolute assurance to the reader of audit report. So neither I can get absolute assurance from the books and financial statements, nor in turn I can tell it to the members of the company who is reading audit report. Now, what are inherent limitations? Very, very, very important question. Almost 10 times asked in various levels. Almost 10 times. So, read the nature of financial reporting. Already we have discussed this in last class. The nature of financial reporting, nature of audit procedures, timelines of financial reporting, and cost benefit analysis. Other matters that affect the limitations of an audit. Okay, just a single reading. All of you just read this. Subjectivity, judgments, assumptions, measurement, all these things, management has lot of bias. Management can play the game with, interpreting some accounting issues to their favorable way. That is also possible. So read the second one, the nature of audit procedures. Read this. First one is about nature of financial reporting, subjectivity, management bias. Second one is, now tell me, if I am auditor, can I investigate into the matters of the company? Can I use the interrogative tone? Am I CID officer? I am not ACP Praduman, no. I cannot say, Daya, kuch to gadbad hai. I cannot. So I am not having Saluke to do this forensic audits and all. Sir, what all these things are? CID bolke in Sony, one thing is there. Since I am born, it is coming continuously. So what I mean to say is, auditor is not investigator. So you cannot investigate into the matters of the company being the auditor. That means there are certain limitations. You cannot interrogate. You will just obtain the information and explanation. You will just obtain. So if the other person is giving you wrong information, you cannot apply third degree like a police officer. So that is third point. Audit is not investigation on wrongdoing. Accordingly, auditor is not given specific legal powers such as powers of search, which may be necessary for conducting an investigation. You cannot do search operations now. You cannot do. Whatever they give, you have to accept it. That's all. This is one point. Another point is, frauds may involve sophisticated, technically, using high level of technology, which is above auditor's technical level. I am a chartered accountant. Though I understand accounting packages or programs, though I understand computers, there will be a limitation. If one ethical or unethical hacker illegally, if he is doing something, okay, or they are changing the program codes to a level where I cannot understand, how will I identify the fraud? So there are certain frauds which the auditor cannot know also. Auditor, I do not know as an auditor. There is no chance. So these are sophisticated, carefully crafted crimes. So that is above my level. That is B point. A point is there is the possibility that management may not provide intentionally or unintentionally. Why do I need to show this to auditor? For example, one court case is there. Management did not tell the auditor that there is a court case. If I am the auditor, how would I know? Directly or indirectly, you will not be able to know this. Now, if I know that there is a court case, I would have asked the management, based on the probability, either disclose it as a contingent liability or create a provision for loss. But management did not inform me that there is a court case. What can I do? That is A. This is the nature of audit process. First one is nature of financial reporting, problems associated with accounting. Second one is problems associated with auditing. Is it clear? First one is problem associated with accounting. Second one is problem associated with auditing. Third one is problem associated. With the ting. Problem associated with the ting. That means client said, sir, I can give only 10,000 rupees, sir. For 10,000 rupees of audit fee, I should not tell it as a teacher or as a chartered accountant. But you think from practical angle, for 10,000 rupees of audit, how many hours I can spend? How many vouchers I can verify? How many transactions I will verify? So obviously there will be a cost benefit analysis. And the majority of the cases, what happens, in Big Four and all, if you see, they will bill based on the number of hours. Big Four and all, so billing, audit fee billing will be there, no? Audit fee billing will be done based on number of hours. So number of hours into rate per hour will be there. So if my articled assistant is coming, per hour I charge this much. If audit manager is coming and working on your file, I will charge this much. If senior manager is coming, I will charge this much. If engagement partner is coming, I will charge this much. Like that, we agreed in that letter of engagement. Audit fee is agreed like this. Okay, now client will say, sir, you do whatever billing you want, but please ensure that it will not go above 10 lakhs. Please. Below 10 lakhs, okay. So for this 10 lakh rupees, how many number of hours I can allocate? There is one budgeting in my firm. So engagement partner will not come below this rate. Audit manager will not come below this rate. So since there is total 10 lakhs cap here, I will have to monitor number of hours properly. So within that number of hours, whatever maximum I can do, I will do. So I have allocated 210 man hours. In this 210 man hours, whatever maximum I can do, that only I will do. So that is third problem. What is first problem? Nature of financial reporting. What is second problem? Nature of audit process. What is third problem? Cost benefit analysis. Time factor. Cost benefit analysis. And another thing is, on September 30th, 100 AGMs will happen. On so and so date, 100 financial statements are to be approved. On so and so date, 100 audit reports are to be given. I am a chartered accountant. I have 100 clients. So how can I do everything on one day? And that too, client will give you books in the last minute only, no? Immediately after financial year, client will not give you books. So day after tomorrow is income tax filing or tax audit report is to be uploaded. Today, client will bring books. That you might have experienced as an articled assistant. Timelines. So within 2 days, what will I do? Okay, next, fourth one is other matters. That's all. Related party transactions, frauds, these kind of things are other matters. That's all. So shall we go back? And this we have discussed. You remember advantage of audit of financial statements, LKG question. Already we have seen. No waste of time on this. We are moving ahead. Types of audit also we have seen. Do you remember statutory audits, voluntary audits? You remember last time, in the previous class, Last week class, we have discussed various types of audits. Guys, please let me know in the chat box. Do you remember we have discussed various types of audits? Internal audit, external audit, statutory audit, voluntary audit, audit based on some specific purpose. You remember? All these things we have discussed. Arundhati is saying yes. What about others? Alfia is saying yes. Mira is saying yes. Very good. Very good. So, this is also over. Now, what should be the quality of an auditor? This question is given only once, but it is common sense. Okay. Who's auditor? Auditor. Simple. The person who conducts audit. The person who conducts audit. That is the reason even this articled assistants will be there, no? Even these articled assistants are half tickets, no? Articled assistant is a half ticket. So when you go and perform any audit now, in the client's place, they will not call you, "Arey, articled assistant, come." They will call you, "Auditor sir, auditor madam." Then you are like, auditor. So the person who conducts audit is auditor. You are conducting audit, so you are auditor. Maybe not statutory auditor as per the Companies Act, but if you are conducting audit, you are the auditor. So what qualities auditor should possess? What qualities auditor should possess? Can you tell me what qualities auditor should possess? There are two types of qualities. Personal qualities, knowledge based qualities. Personal qualities, knowledge based qualities. Knowledge based qualities are simple. Foundation, inter, final. You remember syllabus. CA foundation, CA inter, CA final, if you remember syllabus. Okay. Excellent understanding about accounting standards, accounting procedures, accounting principles. Understanding of law, economic law, industrial law, company law. Having knowledge in Income Tax Act and GST. Information systems, knowledge in costing and financial management, knowledge in cost management. That's all. They are knowledge based qualities. Personal qualities are also given. You should have common sense, you should have communication, okay, you should have proper written communication, you should have tact, you should have patience. These kind of things are person based qualities. So personal qualities: tact is caution, firmness, good temperament, integrity, objectivity, independence, discretion, judgment, patience, clear-headedness and common sense, reliability and trust. Wah, ware bhai, wah. These are your personal qualities. Now you tell me which is the most required quality out of this list. There are so many things in the list. What is the need of the hour? Without that, you neither can pass CA nor you can work like a chartered accountant. The first and foremost thing required is patience. While studying, how much of patience you should have. While practicing, how much of patience you should have. Okay, then knowledge based qualities. General principles of law of contracts, partnership, CPT syllabus, special statutes, provisions applicable, Companies Act, Cooperative Societies Act, IPCC syllabus, taxation law, direct indirect taxes, inter and final, client's nature of business, peculiar features, economic trend. Okay, then accountancy principles, auditing standards, etc. So we'll not waste more time on this. This quality is over. Aspects to be covered in an audit also we have seen. Scope of the audit also we have seen. So shall we move ahead? Hello, shall we move ahead? Okay, have you ever heard there is something called SQC1? Have you ever heard SQC1? What is SQC? Tell me. What is SQC? When we are speaking about quality in audit assignments, there are two levels of quality. SQC1, quality at firm level, correct? Firm, audit firm level. That means Pavan Kumar and company as a firm, what quality it should follow. That is one. Second thing is SA 220. This is called quality at audit assignment level. Quality at audit assignment level. Audit engagement level. That means while PK and company is doing audit of X Limited, you are conducting audit of X Limited. Okay, more or less the content of SQC1 and SCA 220 will be same. More or less it will be same. Many points are common. Okay, now look here. The firm's system of quality control should include policies and procedures addressing the following elements. 6 elements are there. 1. Leadership responsibility for quality within the firm. 2. Ethical requirements including independence. Ethical requirements including independence. Do you remember ethical requirements? Hello. Ethical requirements, you remember? Ethical requirements. I told you one memory code also. Ethical requirements. I told you one memory code. What is the memory code? IOCPP. Indian Oil Corporation Petrol Pump. Indian Oil Corporation Petrol Pump. You remember? These are the ethical requirements. Plus, they are saying independence also. This is what second bullet point is. Ethical requirements and independence. Read second point. Ethical requirements and independence. 3. Acceptance and continuance of client relationship. Acceptance and continuance of client relationship. 4. Human resources. 5. Engagement performance. 6. Monitoring. Okay, these 6 are the elements of system of quality control. They have explained these things little based on SCA 220 and SQC1. They have given what is the importance of leadership qualities, what is the importance of ethical requirements, what about acceptance and continuance, blah blah blah. All these things they have said. We will discuss more in SQC1. SQC1 separately we will discuss. Then I will tell you all these things in the next 2 pages. So this is IOCPP. Very important area. MCQs can be asked from this area. The ethical requirements are integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, professional behavior. This is what I say, IOCPP. Then independence. About independence, I have given some independence of mind, independence in appearance, all these things. Now, very important area, threats to independence. International Federation of Accountants, IFAC. They have given there are certain threats to independence. Do you know the threats to independence? Threats to independence. So do you remember section 144 of the Companies Act? Guys, do you remember section 144 of the Companies Act? What section 144 of the Companies Act says? You tell me. You tell me. I give you 30 seconds of time. You tell me what section 144 says. Hello, response though. What is section 144 of the Companies Act? Can I say it is auditor not to render certain services. Auditor not to render certain services. For example, books of account. For example, internal audits. For example, some sort of consultancy. It is not disqualification. Mira, it is not disqualification. It is not disqualification. It is auditor not to render certain services. Auditor not to render certain services. Okay, now you tell me one thing. If Mr. A is auditor of X Limited, if Mr. A is auditor of X Limited, why can't he prepare financial statements of X Limited? Why can't he maintain books of account? Why can't he maintain books of account? Why can't he engage in valuations? Why can't he render some certain consultancy services? Why can't I? You tell me, why can't I? It is not about integrity. There will be conflict of interest. there will be self-review thread. For example, Pavan as accountant, in X Limited prepares financial statements. Now here Pavan as auditor, if I am playing double role, dual role, what happens? Pavan as auditor in X Limited has to verify truth and fairness of financial statements and report. Now my point is, if you look at this, here I only prepared financial statement, here I only verify financial statement. That means you have prepared question paper, you will write the exam, you will evaluate and put marks for you. Everybody will get 110, no? No, need not be. Someone is saying he will become a related party if you do so. No, need not be. If I am doing some consultancy to the company, I will not become a related party, okay? I will not become a related party. But the point is, listen, see, simple. In balance sheet, land and building, 20 crores is there. In balance sheet, land and building, 20 crores is there. As an accountant or as a consultant, I determined this 20 crores value. Based on some valuation techniques, I said this is 20 crores. And I have put it in financial statements. Tomorrow I will come as auditor. I have to verify whether this 20 crores is correct or not. So don't you think it is, you are writing exam and you are evaluating it. So there are certain threats. Another angle is X Limited appointed Pavan as auditor and said, Pavan sir, your audit fee is 2 lakhs. Auditor. Who's Pavan here? Auditor. And as a consultant, some consultancy services also given. Some Pavan sir, prepare our project report. Pavan sir, go and speak with the banker. Pavan sir, be our representative in income tax department. Pavan sir, please do this work also for us. Pavan sir, go to some government department and please do liaisoning for us. Something they asked. I said, okay, I'll do. So same Pavan is consultant and here fee is 15 lakhs. If the client gets a loan, I will get 25 lakhs, I will get 40 lakhs, I will get 50 lakhs. Big amount. Now what happens? Imagine in this situation, there is a material misstatement in financial statement. Now if I go and ask the MD, dear MD, there is a fraud, there is an irregularity, there is wrong accounting, there is non-compliance with law, there is deviation from accounting standard. Dear MD, this is wrong. To go and affirm that, argue that, to go and tell it on the face. Now, this will stop me. My consciousness will tell me, if I go and fight with him, MD cannot do something here. MD cannot remove me, but MD can do something here. What if they say, Pavan sir, we are giving you 15 lakhs worth consulting assignment. If you speak like this nonsense every day, that is not proper, this is not proper, in accounting, that this and all. Enough, Pavan sir, we cannot handle you, we'll appoint some other consultant. So now, this guy who's working as an auditor, he feels threatened. He feels conflict of interest. He feels he is losing the game. So what he does, as a human being, zip, I will not ask. Why? Because I am more interested here. That is the reason Companies Act said, don't do this, dear auditor, section 144, you cannot do this. So focus only on this. You understand? So there are so many threats to independence. There are so many threats to independence. Now imagine this is auditor. This is X Limited company. And this is income tax department. So auditor is going to income tax department to represent X Limited. To represent X Limited has received one legal notice, this tax notice, tax is to be paid. Then X Limited gave wakalat, power of attorney to auditor. They appointed auditor for this income tax representation. Now auditor went to IT department. Now will I speak in favor of X Limited or will I speak against X Limited with income tax department? Obviously I am going on behalf of X Limited. So I need to speak for X Limited. What if something is wrong with the management or books of accounts and I am getting 5 lakh rupees? So I have to go to income tax department and I need to speak in favor of X Limited. This is called advocacy threat. I am advocating. I am behaving like an advocate of X Limited, representative of X Limited. You understand? This is one issue. So there are threats to independence. How many are there? Self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, familiarity threat. Now you tell me if Mr. A is MD of X Limited. Mr. P is son of Mr. A. Mr. P is a chartered accountant holding certificate of practice. Can Mr. P be appointed as auditor of X Limited? You tell me. Read this and you tell me. Mr. A is MD of X Limited. Mr. P is son of Mr. A. Mr. P is a chartered accountant holding COP. Can Mr. P be appointed as auditor of X Limited? Yes or no? Yes or no? Guys, tell me fast. I want answer from you. Yes or no? The answer is a big no. Why it is no? Because Companies Act has a disqualification. Correct? Companies Act has a disqualification. What if this is a partnership firm? In Partnership Act, there is no disqualification. What if this is a partnership firm? So this is Companies Act disqualification. I agree. Chitra, you are right. This is Companies Act disqualification. What if this is a partnership firm? Then can I accept? Legally, yes, but ethically. Why even what is the reason for this disqualification? I'll tell you. This reason for this disqualification also I'll tell you. What is the reason for this disqualification? Now imagine if the son gives a proper audit opinion and if there is a fraud in the company. If the son gives proper opinion, that fraud will come to limelight. Who will be arrested? Father. So your father will be arrested if your audit report comes out. Will you disclose certain things? No. You're my father only. This is called familiarity threat, which comes with family and friends. This comes with family and friends. So if my family is involved, if my friends are involved, this is called familiarity threat. That is the reason rotation of auditors. Why rotation of auditors is given? To eliminate familiarity threat. Because today I am appointed as auditor of one company. Today I am independent. MD face also I do not know. First time I am looking at the directors. So today I went into the company's corporate office and then MD is there. Hi sir, Pavan here. Hi sir. So I have spoken with all of them. But after doing 1 year audit, 2 year audit, 3 year audit, 4 year audit, not only a formal relationship between the auditor and the client, some kind of informal relationship, friendship will develop over a period. MD calls me, Pavan sir, my daughter marriage, Pavan sir, you have to come, Pavan sir, please Pavan sir. You are invited, Pavan sir. Now I'll also go. So social bonding. And my birthday, MD will send big big flower bouquet with one watch, 1 lakh rupees watch. And I'm like, sir, thank you so much. So this kind of bondage will increase. Because of this, first year you will be strict on the client, but 5th year, 6th year, 10th year, 12th year, 20th year, you'll become so close. And you might be doing some joint ventures also. You might be constructing commercial complexes together. You might be doing investments together. You are sharing so many family, problems, secrets, and all. So informal relationship will be developed. That is the reason companies have said 5 years are over, cut, cooling period, get lost. New auditor will come, no, he will have no familiarity threat. But when you are doing more than 5 years, familiarity threat. That is the reason it should be rotated. Even if one partnership firm is doing audit also, you should rotate it. You understand? Sir, if a relative of a partner in a firm is the entire firm, yes, if one partner disqualifies, the whole firm will disqualify. There is no discussion also. Okay, now Mr. A is conducting audit of X Limited. Audit fee is 10 lakhs. Last 3 years audit fee is not given. Last 3 years audit fee not given. Now today you have, Mr. A has some issue in accounts. So A went to X Limited, A went to the MD or the finance head and said, sir, in your financial statement, some material misstatement is there, sir, fraud is there, sir, error is there, sir, irregularity is there, sir, some, deviation from accounting standard is there, sir, non-compliance is there, sir. To ask this, my mind says, this guy has to pay me 30 lakhs. Already he is not paying. Today I go and speak, he will never pay. So this is financial or physical or some sort of intimidation threat, we call it. So you are giving a warning, directly or indirectly you are giving a warning. Dear auditor, your daughter is studying in that college, intimidation. This is just for fun, I am telling you, but intimidation comes from your dues or your loans or your financial relationship with the client and all. That is the reason the auditor should not have any business relationship with the client. The auditor should not have any business relationship with the client. Companies Act says you should not do any business deals with the client. You should not be investment advisor. You cannot do portfolio management services. You cannot be the internal auditor if you are already external auditor. If you are a statutory auditor, you cannot do books of account. You cannot do consultancy services. You cannot do this human resource services. You cannot supply accountant to the client. So many restrictions are there. These are threats. Now, when there are threats, there must be some safeguards. Pawan sir, there are so many threats. Yes. To protect me from threats, there are some safeguards. Some of the safeguards are given by law. Some of the safeguards are given by Chartered Accountants Act. Okay, now what are the guiding principles? What are the safeguards to independence? This is also important question. This is also one very important question. So read this. The chartered accountant has a responsibility to remain independent by taking into account the context in which they practice, the threats to independence, and the safeguards available to eliminate threats. So what are the safeguards? Safeguards are the steps. Safeguards are the steps or precautions or actions. Safeguards are the steps or precautions or actions to reduce threats to independence. Threats to independence. To reduce threats to independence to an acceptably lower level or to eliminate threat. Safeguards are the steps, precautions or actions. For example, relative purchased shares. Within 60 days, you can sell it. As per Companies Act, relative purchased shares in your, I am the auditor of the company. My relative, my brother purchased shares more than 1 lakh rupees face value. Then I am disqualified. But you cannot remove me like that, okay? So I do not know that my brother purchased. So there is a safeguard. Beta, your independence will be threatened here. You will become, interested in the company because of your brother's holding. So ask your brother to sell it within 60 days. So if there is a threat, there should be a safeguard. Okay, auditor should not be indebted to the company. Auditor should not have any interest in the company. Auditor should not be director of the company. Auditor should not be employee of the company. Auditor should not be relative of key managerial personnel. Auditor should not involve in any business relation. Why all these are to protect the auditor's independence. Some students asked me, some students asked me a question, Pawan sir, why can't you buy goods from your client? Why can't you render other services to your client? Why can't you ask for more assignments? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Because of independence. Because of independence. Okay, so safeguards. What are the safeguards? The following are the guiding principles in this regard. 1. For the public to have confidence in the quality of audit, it is essential that auditors should always be and appear to be independent. In the above para also I told you what is independence in the previous session. What is independence? What is appearing to be independence? That is point number 1. Point number 2. In the case of audit, the key fundamental principles are integrity, objectivity, and now we are coming across with a new word, professional skepticism. What is professional skepticism? Professional skepticism. Write down professional skepticism. What is professional skepticism? An attitude of questioning mind. And a critical assessment of audit evidence. These two put together is called professional skepticism. What is professional skepticism? An attitude of questioning mind. So client has given some audit document, audit evidence to me, or some papers to me, voucher to me, bill to me, invoice to me, legal documents to me, stock statements to me. So the moment I take that, closing my eyes, I cannot put it in my file and I cannot accept it. Okay, reasonable questions I need to ask. I need to ask myself, I need to ask the client also, and I should do critical assessment of audit evidence to see whether it is sufficient and appropriate. Whether it is sufficient. This is called professional skepticism. That is what they told in second point. The key fundamental principles are integrity, objectivity, professional skepticism, which are necessary to be the independent person. Then 3, before taking on any work, very, very, very important, before accepting any work, I should see whether I have any threat to independence. Before accepting any work, I should see whether I have threat to any independence. So, whether any threat to independence. See, before taking on any work, the auditor must conscientiously consider whether it involves threats to his independence. If I feel like there is some threat to my independence, I cannot do. You should not accept the assignment. You should not accept the assignment. Then 4, when such threat exists, the auditor should either desist from the task or put in place safeguard that eliminate the threat. Either you eliminate the threat or you say, sorry sir, I cannot do this assignment, come out. Fine. If the auditor is unable to fully implement credible and adequate safeguards, then do not accept the work. That's all. Professional skepticism is there. The need of professional skepticism and advantages are given. So please read that 2 paras. What is the need of professional skepticism? What are the advantages of maintaining professional skepticism? Okay, read and try to understand. Once you understand it, tell me yes. Okay, do you remember what is SCA 210? Guys, do you remember what is SCA 210? What is 210? Tell me. Have you read audit engagement letter? Letter of audit engagement. That also we'll see today. Okay, now acceptance and continuance of client relationship. For example, you got a call. You are a chartered accountant in practice. You are a chartered accountant in practice. You got a call from some executive of X Limited for an assignment or audit. So someone called me and said, Pawan sir, good morning Pawan sir, I am calling from X Limited. My MD asked me to call you. We are proposing to appoint you to be our statutory auditor, Pawan sir, with a fee of 10 lakh rupees, Pawan sir. I am very happy. But you tell me, can I groom myself, dress up myself, wear a blazer, and just go give the shake hand and say, sir, thank you so much for appointing me, sir? Can I accept the assignment? Before accepting the assignment or before continuing in existing assignment, what are we supposed to do? You tell me, if you are the person who's proposed to be appointed as auditor, what are the things you think? This key managerial personnel, this directors, this officers, is there any criminal record on them? Is there any money laundering cases on them? Criminal records, money laundering cases, enforcement directorate cases. So do they have anything like that? If this is the case, don't accept the audit. If this is the case, don't accept the audit. In India, this culture is not there, but globally, I'm telling you, in other countries, what happens, in other countries, proposed auditor will ask, hey, can you send all your bank statement to me once? So first you give bank statements. I will see the bank statements, and if any transactions are there which are creating a doubt, I will not accept your audit also. I'm very serious. This happens in many countries. In India, we are like, sir, give me audit, sir, please, sir. In many countries, they will say, okay, first you send me your bank account details, bank statements. Then we will go and we will speak with the banker also if required. Are there any, transfers coming to this company or going to this company to any undisclosed accounts or to any countries or any entities where tax havens are there? Tax benefits are there to the other countries. For example, this Seychelles, this kind of some countries are there which do not have more tax effects. So many islands are there. So they'll see, and if something is happening, they'll say, sorry. In India, when you have verified the financial statements of Vijay Mallya, when you have verified the financial statements of Kingfisher, 400 crores is transferred from one entity to another entity in the name of a trust. Which is created in a foreign country. In that particular country, taxation is not there. So what you are doing with this 400 crores? No, there is no record for that. This kind of transactions itself, the auditor should resign. So that is what they are saying here. SQC1, International Federation of Accountants, with this ethical requirements, International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, in this SQC1, what they are saying, the integrity of the principal owners, who are the shareholders, what is their integrity? Key managerial personnel, who are the directors, board of directors, their integrity. Those charged with governance, who are these people, what is their integrity? That you need to think. Whether the engagement team, now second thing, step one, I came to know that the owners are nice people, management, board of directors, those charged with governance, all are nice people. Ammaya, thank God, I can accept the assignment. This is step one. Step two, do I have adequate resources? Do I have adequate resources? Adequate resources can be computers also. For some small assignments, adequate resources can be barcode scanners also. I have received one assignment from State Bank of India, SBI Life Insurance. SBI Life is there, no? The assignment is very simple. Go to SBI Life, whatever the fixed assets are there, you need to verify, but not, manually. You should get one barcode scanner and you should scan it, and it will be recognized in one software. Okay, this is to be done. And the fee is very good fee. But the problem is they have, some 60-70 offices. In 60-70 offices, simultaneously we have to done. Within 15 days, we need to submit the report. For that, 400 manpower, 400 laptops, 400 barcode scanners are required. I can invest money in barcode scanners, but after the audit, what will I do? So you cannot accept this. If you do not have resources, you cannot accept the engagement. For example, today if someone calls and says, hey, I need to file my income tax return, I am calling from US, can you help me out? I will say, sorry, I do not know US tax. If some guy calls me and say, hey, you need to do something about IFRS, can you do that? Yes, I will do, because I have brain, skill, knowledge, team, resources. So the first step is integrity of owners, managers, board of directors, key managerial personnel, those charged with governance. Second one is whether the engagement team is competent to perform. Do I have team enough who can perform this? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough resources? That is second one. Third one, whether the firm and engagement team can comply with the relevant ethical requirements. I as the auditor and my team as engagement team, can we comply with ethics? If the answer is yes, then only you can accept. 4. Significant matters that have arisen during the current or previous audit engagements and their implications for continuing. In the previous year audit, some big issues are there. Now I will tell the MD, sir, sorry, I cannot continue, sir. Because of the issues happened in the previous year audits, I cannot continue. Resign. Or don't reappoint me. These are the 4 points. Then comes human resources. This human resources and engagement performance, these are LKG things, okay? Human resources, recruitment, performance evaluation, capability, competence, career development, promotion, compensation, estimation of personnel needs, all these things are properly to be done. That means if I have Pavan Kumar and Company Chartered Accountants firm, how to recruit people, what should be the interview process, what kind of articles I want, what kind of employees I want, how many employees I want, how to groom their career, how to tone them, how to tune them, how to give training to them. All these things, how to recruit, how to evaluate their performance, how to assess the capabilities, how to improve their competencies, career developments, promotion, all these things. You should have policies, that's all. Then comes engagement performance. Throughout our course, 100 hours if we are studying, 100 hours we'll study this only, engagement performance. So about audit documentation, all the stuff will come here. Okay, just read the content. Take 2 minutes of time and read the content. Read the content. So about appropriate documentation, appropriate procedures, all these things will be there here. Audit procedures to be applied, how to assess the risk, all the stuff will be there. Okay, documentation, policies, procedures, how the assignment is to be performed, how the ethical standards, technical standards, standards on auditing, quality control standards are to be complied with. documentation, obtaining audit evidence, applying audit procedures, applying auditing techniques, all this stuff will come here. Then 6, monitoring. What is monitoring? I have given work to article assistant. I have asked one article assistant to do the work. Don't you think I need to monitor that? There are 3 things here. SCA 220 says there are 3 things. What are the 3 things, you know? What are the 3 things? Direction, supervision, review. DSR. So if I am sending my article assistant for one assignment, first I need to direct him. D. Then I need to supervise him, how he is doing the work day by day. Then 3, I need to review his work before giving my audit opinion. Because tomorrow if something goes wrong, the article assistant will not be blamed, no, auditor will be caught. You understand? So that is called monitoring. The firm should establish policies, procedures designed to provide with reasonable assurance that the policies and procedures relating to quality control systems are relevant, adequate, operating effectively. This is about firm level. What I told you is 220, audit level. This is firm level. Policy. Okay. Preconditions for an audit is 210. So we have entered. I told you a few minutes back that we'll be discussing 210 also today. So shall we go to 210? The next topic is SCA 210. Okay. So we'll take a small break here. We'll come back, and once we come back, we'll start with SCA 210. Okay. We'll take a small break and come back.